Hey everyone, welcome back to A Hill with a View. My name is Moshe Hill. It's so great to have you back, and I'm just reminding you that whatever method you're listening to right now, please make sure to like, subscribe, review 5 stars, share with a friend or family member, forward it around, okay? That's how we grow the channel, that's how we grow everything, and we really appreciate everything that everyone's done. I want comments, I want emails, I want to hear from you. That would be amazing. This is episode 4, and today we're going to dive into a topic that is as colorful as a toddler's playroom, but will cause more fights than picking out those colors for that nursery. This is the selective activism of Miss Rachel. That's right, the newest nominee for Antisemite of the Year by StopAntisemitism, who is a YouTube sensation who has built an empire on songs and smiles, but uses that empire to spread hate and lies. That is the Miss Rachel that we have gone to understand. She has spread everything. She has spread misinformation, disinformation. It is absolutely ridiculous, and she deserves to be on that nomination list. Now, don't get me wrong. I am all for educating kids through fun content. She is a bit creepy, though, for my taste. I've watched a little bit. She's a little too creepy. But when it comes from what that content creator steps into the arena of politics, especially with a one-sided narrative, we have to ask, is this really about children, or is it about pushing an agenda? Okay? Let me be clear. Being a children's entertainer doesn't make you above scrutiny. In fact, it invites even more scrutiny. You are even more scrutinized for your content because your content is going out to children. Children are even more susceptible to lies than adults, and adults are lied to all the time. Children's minds are malleable. They are like Play-Doh, fresh out of the can. This is why they believe in Santa Claus. They believe in the Tooth Fairy. They believe in all these things. Anyone who has kids or knows anything about kids knows that and understands how impressionable they are. Okay? So you cannot hide behind the fact that you're just doing it for kids. It's in kids' entertainment. When you are hiding behind the children that you are manipulating to continue indoctrinating them into the very manipulation that we are protesting, you are even more suspect of pushing an agenda than performing any kind of altruistic service. All right? So, Miss Rachel, you are not above reproach because you are targeting children. Kids absorb everything that we have without filters that we adults have built up over the years of experience. That is why we need to hold her to a higher standard, not a lower one, and not let her off the hook because she sings about ABCs and she sings nice and she wears colorful outfits. So, Miss Rachel, we have to talk about you and what you've been doing. Let's start with the basics, okay? Rachel Griffin-Accurso, who is known as Miss Rachel, has been embracing leftist views for years. Long before Gaza became the new cause celeb, she was weaving in things like the trans agenda into her videos, teaching toddlers about pronouns, non-binary identities, celebrating the idea that kids could be born in the wrong body. That is not innocent, okay? That is not something kids need to learn about. This is not playtime. This is harmful. This has caused pain and suffering to countless kids around the country who have either detransitioned already or don't yet understand that they have ruined their own lives. They have been tricked by people. This has been a problem for 10 years. This has been a big problem for 10 years. Now, finally, people are backing off of this agenda because it has been a political loser. But that doesn't mean that people haven't been harmed for really a long time over this. And she is part of the people who have harmed over this. She is not alone in this. History has shown us that children's programming has been a battleground for this stuff. Take the Muppet Babies, for example. In a 2021 episode, Gonzo dresses up as a princess called Gonzarella, and the show pushes the message that gender norms are fluid even for puppets.
Everyone, there's something I need to tell you. The princess who came to your ball tonight was me. I'm Gonzarella.
Parents were absolutely furious, calling it an attempt to confuse young kids about biology. All right? That is not all. Transformers Earthspark, which is another show directly for children, where they introduced a non-binary character named Nightshade in 2023.
Ooh, I like your pins. I am Nightshade. My pronouns are they, them.
The robot uses a they, them pronouns. This is a cartoon about giants fighting machines, not a gender studies class. It is slipped in under the radar, normalizing ideas that lead kids down a path of confusion and harm. This is something that Miss Rachel herself pushes. She is not above reproach for any of these things. And let me repeat myself in case you didn't hear me the first time. Miss Rachel has caused harm to children with her stances. Okay? Taking a pro-trans stance is not pro-child. There's serious trade-offs to this. It is not pro-child at all to do this to anyone. And there's the thing about stances. This is what people do not understand. Every time you take a stance, you are creating a controversial issue. That's what stances are. When you take a stance on something, it is controversial. Period. End of story. It doesn't matter what you're taking a stance on. There will always be people who are upset. And that could be something as simple as waving an American flag. That is a stance. Waving an American flag, and there will be people who are upset about it. So you have to judge a person based on the stances they take. And she is not, there's no stance in teaching kids the ABCs. That is not a stance. But waving a pride flag, a gay pride flag while doing it, that is a stance. And you have to judge them based on the stances they take. Okay? So that is what Miss Rachel does. And every position that she has been taking is a far left-wing position. And so she should not be surprised that the positions she is taking are under fire from people who do not agree with her. Nobody disagrees with teaching kids the ABCs. Nobody even disagrees with bringing on a child who is the victim of war. They really don't. Nobody is upset about that. What people are upset about is the one-sidedness. It is the obfuscation of serious issues that are going on in the world and forgetting about everything in the focus of one particular narrative, a narrative that foments hate and it foments anti-Semitism. That's what we're talking about. Now, so when she pushes something like the trans agenda, she is contributing to the indoctrination of kids who might end up on radical medical experiments, puberty blockers, hormones, surgeries that leave them sterilized or regretting it for life. And all these things we've been doing for 10 years. They did it in Europe. They're doing it everywhere. They're not doing it anymore. Studies from places like Sweden, the UK's case review show that most kids with gender dysphoria grow out of it naturally if we don't rush them into treatments. But that's not what Miss Rachel does. She pushes those treatments. She doesn't talk about those children. She doesn't talk about detransitioners dealing with the chronic pain, the infertility, the emotional fallout from decisions that she pushed. Her videos make it seem like, oh, it's all a fun, big, rainbow-filled adventure. Meanwhile, not only are the children influenced by this, but the parents are influenced by this. And let me tell you something. The reason why this issue will not go away is because the parents will never be able to forgive themselves for harming their own children. And so they'll have to keep pushing the lie. That is what parents are going to keep doing. They're going to keep doing this because they were lied to by people like Miss Rachel, and they were pushed on this by people like Miss Rachel to harm their own children. So it's not compassion, it's recklessness wrapped up in a jumper. That is what she does. So fast forwarding to her pivot on Palestinian causes. Okay, there's no, by the way, this is just a general rule that everyone needs to know about when it comes to pro-Palestinian causes. There's no such thing as a pro-Palestinian cause. It doesn't exist. At least not one that is mainstream. I've seen a couple of commentators here and there who actually know what's up and know how to help the Palestinian people. That is nothing mainstream. No one, no influencer talks that way. None of these college kids who are protesting every week talk that way. Miss Rachel certainly doesn't talk that way. Nobody in Congress talks that way. They are not pro-Palestinian. They are only anti-Israel. And there is a difference. because a pro-Palestinian advocate would stay as far away from Israel as they possibly could. Because they know over 70 years of trying to destroy Israel, well, not 70 years, because the Palestinian cause was founded in 1964 by the Arab League in order to use as a weapon to destroy Israel. That's what the Palestinian cause was. Everything before that, Palestinians before 1947 were Jews, were Israelis. That is what Palestine was. So, but that's a whole nother video for a whole nother time. But this is just another way of just attacking Israel. And Palestinians have allowed themselves to be used this way for decades, for generations. They have been used this way by people who have claimed to be their friends and have actually done them irreparable harm for decades. So she does not suddenly care deeply about these kids. It is because now the Palestinian cause became the cause celeb. It is a popular leftist trend, and she has jumped on it just like she jumped on the trans agenda. I'm sure she's had videos about climate change too. I just haven't really watched her that much. So if I found those videos, I'm sure she talks about climate change. I'm sure she's mentioned things about open borders, in her own way. Oh, all the kids deserve to come to America. And it's so sad when they get separated. Yeah, you're literally pushing the propaganda of Mexican drug cartels and the cartels that traffic in children. And how many of those kids die on the way there? How many of them are abused, sexually abused, physically harmed? Don't care about those kids. Let's just focus on the kids that there's a good photo op that you can exploit. So that Miss Rachel doesn't care about children because she didn't say anything on October 7th. If she cared about children, she would have said something on October 7th. The images that were going around, the disgusting harm that was happening to children, the B-Bus kids that were kidnapped. I mean, she would have said something, right? Nothing. She doesn't say anything at all. And that is like the first indication that she doesn't really care about children. She cares about her causes. So it did not kick off when Hamas slaughtered 1,200 Israelis, when they burned alive families in their homes in the Gaza envelope. They didn't talk about the kids who were killed, the teenagers or late teens, early 20s who were killed in the Nova Festival. She didn't talk about any of that. She was silent on this issue for 12 full days, ignoring Jewish children kidnapped into Gaza tunnels, or how many hundreds and thousands have been orphaned by this terrorism. Orphaned. Those kids don't matter too, apparently. But on October 19th, right after 2023, right after the Al-Ahli Arab Hospital explosion, when Israel, they blamed Israel for bombing a hospital and killing 500 people, which didn't happen. They showed literally a parking lot and said that's where the hospital used to be. Nope, that's a parking lot. That was the moment that everyone who was not already protesting had permission to start attacking Israel. So if you can't remember back 2 years, people were protesting against Israel on October 7th, within minutes of, and there's actually lawsuits going on right now because there was some indication that people were ready to protest before the attacks actually happened. They already knew that something was going on. They were planning to protest Israel. So this issue, those people were protesting right away, but that wasn't mainstream because that was college campus, that was fringes, that was all these people who were on student visas, who we let into the country for some inexplicable reason. We let them into the country to destroy our country, and they were protesting immediately, right away. But most other people who were anti-Israel had to wait until an excuse. And so the Al-Ahli Arab Hospital explosion became the excuse. That became the thing that they could glom onto, and because they could blame Israel and say that Israel was doing something wrong. So the hospital explosion, which was a misfired Palestinian rocket shooting back at Israel, aiming towards civilian populations in Israel, but it was misfired and it landed in Gaza. That was the moment that everyone got permission to attack Israel again. And it didn't change. So there was maybe a week and a half where the world was on Israel's side after October 7th. Maybe a week and a half. Not even. So that's when she finally posted a call for peace and humanity for all children. That was the moment she deemed it safe to attack Israel without backlash from her progressive crowd. So the progressive crowd was very quick to turn on Israel. So if you just care about kids, Miss Rachel, then why did you have silence by the Israeli victims? Why not wait until the narrative shifted? A lot of what she's been pushing since has been straight up debunked. Take her amplification of the lie that 14,000 children in Gaza would die within 24 hours from starvation. That was a lie. She pushed that. It was a complete hoax. She pushed it, didn't care what happened. That came from a mistaken U.S. official's claim in May 2025. Journalists ran with it, quickly corrected, but it was never accurate. And it doesn't even make sense. It was like illogical. It made no sense at the time. Anyone who has a half decent radar knows it was complete BS. Doesn't matter. She pushed it. She echoed it. In emotional pleas, she fundraises off these things, off this panic that never materialized. So, same thing, baby formula. She accused Israel of withholding formula from Gaza, calling it a war crime in her posts, letters demanding that the blockade be lifted, everything like that. But turns out Hamas was hoarding the formula and all the aid. This was all found out right afterwards. Hamas was hoarding it. Or the UN wasn't distributing it because they wouldn't do it unless they did it with Hamas. And Hamas steals all the aid. There were so many videos that were coming out at this time of Hamas fighters who were fat. They were fat and well-fed, and they had the food, and they were showing the food they had in the tunnels while everyone's blaming Israel for what's going on. This was happening at the time. She was pushing the debunked story of, she showed the picture of the child with the disease, with a horrifying disease that made him look skeletal. And the kid was being shown next to his brother who looked fine. And they said, and she pushed it, and also being held by their mother who was well fed. And she pushed it as an Israeli starvation story. She kept doing this over and over and over again. And she's constantly pushing these kind of things. Her entire Instagram feed is filled with Palestinian propaganda. She hosted a terror supporter on her show. She actually had to delete that episode because she hosted somebody who supported terrorism. She always painted Israel as the villain. All right? So this is what she does. And this is not harmless. This is not pro-Palestinian. It is just anti-Israel. It neglects all the anti-Semitism that she foments against Jewish children. She erases Israeli suffering. She amplifies one-sided narrative. She contributes to a toxic environment where Jewish kids face real danger. So there is a report from Stop Antisemitism in December 2025. Stop Antisemitism, the same organization that put her on the list of nominees. And I think she's going to win because, honestly, they got so much traction out of that post and including her in it. They got, I think last I checked, they were at 13 million views on X. And so many comments about her inclusion on that, that she's just going to win it because it's just going to push this. People have to start asking these questions. Why is this happening? So Stop Antisemitism gave a failing F grade to 14 elite U.S. colleges like Columbia, Harvard, Yale, UPenn, UC Berkeley for their pathetic handling of anti-Semitism on their campuses. Surveys show 58% of Jewish students face harassment, 39% hide their identity to stay safe, 62% were blamed for Israel's actions, 65% claim they felt unwelcome. 12%, only 12% saw that their schools addressed complaints effectively. This is, as founder Lior Rez put it, is systemic and tolerated anti-Semitism on college campuses. And cultural influencers like Miss Rachel not only normalize this, but they teach it. She teaches it to the next generation. So all these college students, they're 18 to 22 years old. Those are not the target audience for Miss Rachel. The target audience for Miss Rachel are 3 to 5-year-olds, 3 to 6-year-olds. And she's basically indoctrinating those kids into the mentality that Jews are subject to targeted harassment in preschool, elementary school, middle school, high school. All these things are going to happen because of her, because of the things that she is teaching these kids. And you're teaching kids that some victims matter more than others. You're teaching kids that Jewish kindergartners require security at school because 5-year-old kids hear they're bad because they're Jewish. And don't pretend that, oh, it's just Israelis, You think that Israel and Judaism are not linked? Of course they are. They're synonymous with each other. Israel is a part of Judaism. You want to be have semantic overload and say the biblical Israel versus the current state of Israel, like, it's irrelevant right now. For thousands of years, Jews have longed to return to Israel. And it happened. Don't pretend that these things are not linked. They are. And in the minds of anti-Semites, in the mind of these children, they are absolutely linked. So if somebody walks around with one of these on, I am subject to harassment. It doesn't matter what I believe. No one knows what I believe. I'm anonymous when I walk down the street, despite my amazingly growing YouTube channel, right? Make sure to subscribe. But you're synonymous. You're going to be attacked for being Jewish. The activism Miss Rachel has trade-offs. Is a surge in hate that terrorizes all the kids you claim to protect. Now, like I said before, all stances are controversial. Miss Rachel should not be shocked that hers draws scrutiny. Yet she is. She pretends that she's just advocating for children. I never thought that advocating for kids would be so controversial. I never thought that advocating for these causes would be so controversial. Miss Rachel reacted to the announcement with shock and tears. Oh, I never thought I'd go on TV and beg for children not to be intentionally starved, and that would be controversial, she said in reaction to the announcement that she was added as a nominee for Anti-Semite of the Year. That statement, however, is indicative of why she deserved that nomination in the first place. It's a loaded statement, the assumption of a fact that has no evidence and is fomenting the very anti-Semitism that she is accused of. It is equivalent to a 15th century accusation of, well, I never thought wanting Christian blood to not be baked into matzah would be considered controversial. That is ridiculous. She's accusing things without any facts, nothing backing her up. So if she was truly a pro-child advocate, there has to be some balance. You can condemn the child soldiers of Hamas and indoctrination of the Hamas children to children, the Nazification of children in Gaza. Acknowledge the harm that this has caused. And it's actually kind of sick. She was talking about Palestinian kids for months and months. She didn't talk about kids in the Sudan or in other places where they're being killed by multiple times more, deliberately targeted. She didn't talk about them until it became super obvious that she just doesn't care about those kids. So she had to talk about them a little bit. So she brings it up now every so often. But you can't claim she doesn't care about kids. She cares about leftist causes. And the leftist cause right now is to be anti-Israel. So she uses her platform to push a leftist agenda, just like she did with the gender transition stuff. She's pushing an agenda through her platform. So if you're a parent, think about what you're streaming. Think about what you're showing your kids. I don't let my kids look at YouTube at all, period. Because, I mean, I'm very annoyed that I let them look at a lot of streaming services because there's so much garbage out there. And I've walked in on them watching a show and I said, turn this off right now. Within 10 seconds. I didn't even know what the show was about. But you could tell within seconds this is not appropriate for kids. And it's incredibly difficult to be a parent these days because you want a break, or you want to, do something around the house and you put your kids in front of the TV. I mean, you want the kids to be okay. You can't trust anything anymore. But you definitely can't let them watch Miss Rachel. Kids' malleable minds deserve truth and not indoctrination. So that's going to be it for today. Miss Rachel, you deserve every bit of scrutiny and attack that is coming your way. You should really rethink what you've been doing instead of doubling down on it like you have been doing. I mean, this is not new. This has been going on for months and months and months, and you just keep doubling down, and you can't claim to care about children. You really can't. You can't claim to be an advocate for children when you keep doing these kind of things. Please make sure to like and subscribe. If you think I'm wrong, please drop your thoughts in the comments. Send an email to ahillwithaview@gmail.com. I would love to hear from you. I love to be told when I'm wrong. I definitely wasn't this time, but let's hear it. And make sure you come back next time. Make sure you share, you subscribe, like and subscribe. Thank you very much. We'll see you next time.